Hey, it's Jordan here with legendary independent journalist Michael Tracey. You've been with the Young Turks, you've freelanced at many other places, and now you are basically voyaging out on your own. We have podcasts to look forward to, written articles, maybe other things. So obviously, we'll get to what you're working on later. Want to start? I personally like saying "I told you so." You know, you're supposed to be cool and not say that, but I like saying it. So unless something radically changes, it seems that the Russian collusion theory that you've been attacked for journalistically questioning for the last 2.5, 3 years seems to be getting to a point now where evidence would point to there being no firm evil cabal between the Trump campaign or Russian. Doesn't mean, like we've always said, President Trump doesn't have some financial dealings with Russia that need to be looked at. But what do you think? Because now I'm seeing, people like Congressman Jerry Nadler say, well, even if it doesn't come back, even if Mueller doesn't come back with collusion, that doesn't mean there wasn't collusion. You have others. David Corn, I love, from Mother Jones, saying, well, it was never about collusion in the first place. You've been, you've kind of been steadfast the last few years, along with a few others. What do you think of now the goalposts moving in terms of Russian collusion?
Well, first of all, Jordan, good to see you. Looking better than ever. You're a beautiful man. I don't think anyone would deny that.
Thank you for dressing up so profoundly for me.
Well, I should also clarify, I did not dress up specifically for this event. I don't hold Jordan in that high regard.
That's fine.
High regard, but not that high, not suit high. Anyway, I mean, it's incredible how top Democrats who have been at the forefront of spinning this for 2.5 years are just drastically changing their tune, and nobody thinks that there's anything inconsistent about what they're saying. Take, for instance, Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is the leading proponent of Russia, collusion, hysteria, blah, 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 in the Congress. And what's he been doing for the past couple weeks? He's been going on all these Sunday shows and all these TV interview shows where he's one of the staple guests and saying that there's already ample evidence for collusion in the public record. So he's saying that whether it's the Don Jr. meeting in Trump Tower that was revealed in July 2017, or it's stuff pertaining to the Moscow Trump Tower dealing, all that is already sufficient to establish that collusion exists. So he's laying the groundwork for claiming that collusion has already been established, notwithstanding whatever Mueller comes up with.
Right.
Now, Mueller's investigation is what Schiff and his acolytes have been saying must be protected with every fiber of our being, or democracy's going to crumble. That's what they've been saying for the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. And, 2.5 years if you stretch back even further before the special counsel was actually initiated. But so now they're saying that the special counsel was never even necessary.
Right.
Remember, MoveOn.org, when Trump was talking about firing Sessions, or when he did fire Sessions ultimately after the midterms, MoveOn.org launched a email rallying cry out to its membership saying, we all need to take to the streets and demand that Trump not fire Jeff Sessions. I'm not making this up. One of the leading progressive groups in the entire United States called on its membership to rally in defense of Jeff Sessions. That actually happened. That's how distorted the contemporary political climate is, because they thought that Jeff Sessions being fired was going to jeopardize the Mueller investigation. That's how important it was regarded to protect Mueller investigation. And now you got Adam Schiff, Gerald Nadler, Ted Lieu is another one. Ted Lieu, he gave a hilarious statement on Chris Cuomo's show on CNN 2 weeks or so ago, where he said that it would be my preference. I want Mueller not to come up with collusion because it'd be better for the country if the president hadn't actually colluded with the foreign power. Come on. Does anybody actually believe that Ted Lieu and his kin are going to be happy if all their wildest theories about the Trump presidency are just utterly underlined and Trump is allowed to claim vindication? That's another irony here. This is something that I've been pointing out from the outset, as well as the handful of others who you kind of alluded to. By whipping up this confabulated and faulty criticism of Trump, what you're doing is you're giving Trump grounds to claim vindication later on, which is actually going to empower him. Mm-hmm. So when the Mueller report comes out, or whatever Mueller finally states once this is over, there's a very good chance now that Trump is going to have legitimate grounds to claim vindication because nobody is going to be charged with actually conspiring with Russians to influence the 2016 election.
I also think it's going to give him the ability to whip up his base that there has been a deep state conspiracy against him.
And to some extent, there has. I wouldn't use the phrase deep state because Sean Hannity is now a big, he's now a big proponent of the deep state theory, and his conception of deep state is not the deep state that actually exists. Right? But at core, there is something there. Right? Think about Andrew McCabe. I sent you the column that I wrote for the Daily News 2 weeks ago or so on Andrew McCabe, who was the deputy director of the FBI, and then once Comey was fired, he was the acting director of the FBI. So he was the most powerful law enforcement official in the country. And what's come out recently with this book tour that he's on, he has this book about how the FBI navigated the turmoil of the Trump presidency. Andrew McCabe said that he and Rod Rosenstein, who was then the deputy attorney general, so the two of the most powerful unelected law enforcement officials in the entire country conspired to potentially extra-legally remove Trump from office. Now, you could hate Trump. You could think he's the gravest menace of all time. But you're going to empower the FBI and the Department of Justice to decide for themselves that the democratic will or the general populace can be overridden and the president can be removed? I mean, Trump was elected. Right. Yeah, it was an electoral college thing, didn't win the popular vote, blah, blah, blah. By the constitutional framework that we have in place now for presidential elections, Trump was elected, okay? So Andrew McCabe and Rod Rosenstein took it upon themselves, along with other people in the FBI who haven't actually been identified yet, to basically plan how to mount a coup. And I say the word coup deliberately because contemplating whether to invoke the 25th Amendment wouldn't have obviously been legal just because the 25th Amendment is in the Constitution, right? John Yoo, during the George W. Bush years, came up with all kind of cockamamie schemes to justify torture, and he used the constitutional authorities to justify that. So just because it's in the Constitution and somebody's citing the Constitution doesn't mean it's actually legal. So I think it's pretty clear that the 25th Amendment was not designed to remove somebody who you believe might have done some corrupt deal or you think might be compromised or whose foreign policy views you just agree with, because they thought that his foreign policy orientation toward Russia was an indication of his being compromised. So in essence, they were objecting to his foreign policy views. That's not what the 25th Amendment was designed for. So if the most powerful law enforcement officials in the entire federal apparatus were conspiring to invoke some obscure mechanism to remove the president, that creates a hugely ominous precedent. And one way I've been trying to tell, quote, progressives that they should care about this is, think of President Bernie coming into power, and maybe he has some foreign policy initiative that the FBI, Department of Justice, intelligence community doesn't like. They could use the same methods to thwart him.
You are aware Bernie and Jane Sanders honeymooned in Russia.
I am aware. I've seen grainy clips of that from 1987 or whenever it was, but those are, I like those clips.
I'd like to ask you, because you pointed this out. I just referenced your tweets because you're a one-man Twitter machine. But
for better or worse, I guess.
At Michael Tracey.
At M Tracey.
You pointed out for a long time, and I agree with this, that it's not just about like the factual inaccuracy and the mass speculation about collusion, but you're poking at a nuclear armed power, and now we're seeing Putin is now making direct threats against the United States about missile, what Russia could do. You have Trump backing out of the 1980s agreement that Reagan and Russia pushed. So the things that you and others were warning against, we're seeing really this tension and this buildup that it doesn't seem to me, Jerry Nadler is so worried about that Adam Schiff is so worried about that, and certainly not our friend Rachel Maddow is so worried about that.
The only one who's worried about it is Tulsi. Yes. And she's going completely against the grain relative to the rest of the Democratic caucus in Congress and relative to liberal pundits and everybody in the entire center-left ecosystem. She's the only one, including Bernie, frankly, who is pointing out the danger of how this domestic political hysteria has created a warped climate such that Trump now has free rein to act extraordinarily belligerently toward Russia because there's this presumption that he's friendly to Russia based on his rhetoric and the performance he gave at the Helsinki summit and whatever else. There's this false perception that Trump is in league with Russia. So when he actually implements policies that are antagonistic toward Russia, nobody raises any questions other than Tulsi.
Right.
And she's been ostracized by much of the liberal establishment. So, the INF Treaty would be one example. The sending lethal arms to Ukraine would be another example, which he authorized in, I believe, December of 2017. Remember there was this big controversy in 2016 over whether Trump authorized representatives to alter the Republican platform?
About Ukraine.
About not sending lethal arms to Ukraine. Sure enough, Trump didn't abide by whatever that platform initiative was, and he sent lethal arms to Ukraine. But there's nobody saying, hey, maybe this is unnecessarily escalating tensions with the nuclear armed power because they're so invested in this faulty and warped domestic narrative. And that's something that I've been trying to warn about from the very beginning. And I don't like to say I told you so. I mean, I don't want to claim vindication in that way. I think it's a little cheap and cheesy. However, what I will say is I think it was evident from the outset that this would be the outcome. And all you had to do was try to be a little impartial, a little objective about the factual record, about the evidentiary basis for a lot of the claims that were being made about Trump. I always said I wanted a rational, robust critique of Trump. He has authoritarian tendencies. He's in hock to the business elite of the Republican Party. There's plenty to criticize. So by elevating this false criticism, you're giving him cover to get away with all manner of other stuff.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.